Hi, howdy, and welcome back to another
It
episode
took
of
this
World
poor guy
Bigfoot
like 8 hours to drive here, and he was driving through this mountain valley between Spokane and Missoula with a freeway in it. And the closer he got to Missoula, the less traffic there was in either direction until it started to look like some kind of doomsday movie where there's the only truck on the road is the one you're driving. Finally got here. We were having bad weather that day, and the rain petered out right about the time we did. And I was watching it to wait for it to quit doing, quit raining, quit raining, quit raining. We're going down the valley, and the clouds are like starting to clear in front of us as we're getting down there. And then we turn to go up into the Sapphire Mountains, and the clouds are still over where we're going, the Sapphire Mountains, still dropping precipitation. So as we're coming up the pass in the valley, it looks like, a giant axe rent the mountains, and somebody made a road at the base of it, and you can't see anything in front of you. It's white. And as we're going up, we're going into the clouds, and then we're going through thick forest, and it's white on both sides with this eerie mist going through it. And it looks like a scene from Lord of the Rings. The whole damn thing looks like a scene from Lord of the Rings. And we get further up, and we start coming up above the clouds now. And the clouds are further down in the valley, and now we're on the edge of a cliff. And we're driving on this one-lane, rutted, horrible, unimproved, super dangerous dirt road with, wide outside corners that are only one lane, so you can fly off, or somebody oncoming can crash, and you can both fly off. And we're going up this thing, and it just got done raining, so it's slick. You're sliding around too. Down below us, we can't even see the other side of the valley, but we can see the clouds below us, and peeking up out of the top of the clouds are the treetops. And that's pretty weird looking. And then a couple more curves ahead, you can see a little bit of the other side of the valley. You can't see the base of it. You can't see the walls of it. All you can see is this huge rock promontory jutting out about 1,000 feet in the air, like it's floating on a cloud castle in the sky, and nothing but clouds below it. And then finally we even got above that, and we're going over the top of the pass, and it's got all pine trees and stuff up there. We're finally off the edge of the cliff road, and all the pine trees are covered with snow. It's like frickin' Christmas City of the North, because we're too high up now, and the rainstorm that was rain down below, keeping in mind this is June, has been snowing up here. So we got 3 or 4 inches of snow on the trees, hanging thick on them, nice wet snow. It's Christmas City of the North again. We got on the pass on the other side, and as we're going lower, there's less and less of it. And when we finally got down to where camp was, Team LOD had already got there ahead of us, and there hadn't been really any snow down there. It kind of landed as like slushy rain and melted right away. But unbeknownst to us, there were still snowbanks left. And we didn't have to bring any ice with us for our cooler. We could have just snow poached for the rest of it. So they were down there. They had the camp all set up. They had the fire going and everything. Me and Papa Craig quickly set up our tents and then squatted around the fire for a while until both of them went to sleep. Now, in the middle of the night, Hawk had to get up and get in his vehicle and turn it on to warm himself up. And this guy's no wuss. He was actually sick and shouldn't even have been there. And it got way cold that night. How cold do you think it got, Papa Craig?
I don't know, down around 20.
Yeah, my guesstimate was about 23 degrees because my drink kept freezing over in between sips, and I'd keep breaking the ice on it. But it was so cold we didn't even go to sleep. We just sat up all night, which is pretty heroic because keeping in mind Papa Craig had just done like a 10-hour drive that day and then sat up all night. And we just sat there and stoked the campfire all night until the sun was starting to come up. It was getting to be twilight, and then I said, hey, see that over there across the river where there's that weird tree with the bent part in it? Keep your eye on that spot over there.
Right, so I looked at that tree, and it looked like there was a Bigfoot peeking out from behind a tree. Classic looked like a Bigfoot peeking from out behind a tree. And as it got a little lighter and I kept looking, the head on the Bigfoot backed away and faded into the background, and I remember thinking, that can't be possible. That just can't be. So I didn't figure it was a Bigfoot or anything, and went over to talk to you, and you said, well, it's almost light. Let's go see if we can see some footprints on the ground.
Yeah, because nobody had been there for 10 months, so if there was any tracks on the river going upriver, wouldn't have been people camping there. So pretty prime opportunity to go check it out. So I led the way. Off we went.
Off we went, and all of a sudden my legs turned into noodles. Felt like I was kind of punched in the gut. Dizzy, stupid. I said, Duke, I got to go back right now. My legs don't work. they're noodles. And I think I just turned and started staggering back towards camp. Gotta go now. I was afraid I was going down, and so went back and sat by the fire, and after a while I says, "Hey, do you think I just got zapped?" I said, "It's highly possible." And I remember standing up, sitting down, trying to get things to work, and I went and got something to eat because it felt like it might help the pain in my stomach, and none of that helped. So after about 20 minutes,
You forgot the other thing you asked me too. After you said, "I think I got zapped," and I said, "Yeah, it's possible." And you said, "What should I do?" And I said,
Oh,
"Well,
yeah.
first off, I'd recommend you don't go upriver again."
Right. Like that was going to work. Anyway, yeah, so I went and got back went and got my tent, and I said, "I'm going to bed." You said you could freeze. I still have plenty of blankets. I'll be all right there. But as soon as I got in the tent and out of your influence and, another person around, this fear came over me. My gosh, dread and terror and fear and strange thoughts and stuff like we're all going to be ate. And right in the middle of all that dread and terror and fear, I just passed out. Next thing I knew, it was 1 o'clock, and although I felt a lot better, I know for the whole weekend I didn't feel all that bright and chipper and smart. So,
He told me it didn't really wear off until 3 days later after you got back. So you got the better part of a week of being discombobulated from whatever happened, assuming that they zapped you or whatever. And just to chime in on my end of it, after you left the campfire and decided to go lay down and you were sure you weren't having a heart attack or something,
that's right.
Everybody else was asleep. Ty was in his tent asleep. Hawk was up in the truck with the heater running intermittently so he wouldn't freeze to death because he was sick and probably shouldn't have been there to start with. And you were in your tent. I was the only one that was up still feeding the campfire. And I was just sitting in my chair by the campfire. And apparently at some point I fell asleep. So I'm not getting hit by any waves of terror. I'm sitting out there by myself and nothing's happening to me. And I don't know how long I'd napped for, like an hour or something. And something startled me. I woke up and there was a deer standing on the other side of the fire pit from me, grazing. And when my head popped, it went, "Oh my God, not an inanimate object, human right there." Ah, and it took off as fast as it could, which scared me even more. It's like, deer panicking and running away 8 feet in front of me, So at that point I went, well, everybody's still asleep and nobody's gotten up yet. And I'm just going to go lay down in my tent. So I went, fell down, and I probably got up about the same time you did. And then we decided from there that since you were feeling a little bit better, we would go drive down the pass and I would show you some of the stuff that we had found before. And I needed to stop on Camp B and shoot a kind of a follow-up on one of the things that happened when we were there a couple of years before with Caveman and Kevin, when they saw one sneaking across the river and coming up into the pine trees right next to camp. So I wanted to, do a daylight thing of it. They were sitting here and blah, blah, blah. Oh, that's in episode 120 if you want to go back and look at it. So anyway, we took the vehicle and went down the pass to where the Super X was. This is one of the places that Papa Craig actually got a picture from that didn't somehow get deleted or fuzzy or something weird happened to it. And he got a really sweet picture of the X. And then he tried to walk through the timber tangles straight upriver from there. And everything he tried to film, it didn't come out. There's Papa Craig. He's up here in the high timber with me. Where Forest Construction Inc. has really good building materials. Lots of lodgepole pines. Can you see it? There's a big teepee structure right there. Let's walk over. Wading through the timber.
wading through the timber. So they don't make it easy to find some of this stuff or get to it. We actually have skeeters here. I'm surprised because we got 5 inches of snow up in the pass last night. All the pine trees up there were covered with snow and looked like Christmas trees when they were coming down. And we got just low enough where we were at in the valley that there hadn't been very much snow there. It melted right away. But we got frost again last night. And my
that was the weirdest dang thing. I thought it was my new camera and stuff, but everything it was all streaked or blurry or black or gone. And I thought, well, it's just me trying to run the new camera, but when I got home I ran the camera and nothing bad happened. Before I left, nothing happened to any of my videos.
And we're recording this in early August, and he's been out pretty much every weekend since he was here in June using that camera, and it's always worked just fine.
It's just fine. It's a pretty simple camera.
I think I may have the reason for that. And I was actually watching. I was keeping a close eye on him. I went further over to the left and went over to the river, the edge of the river, because they kind of got a trail over there, so they leave tracks occasionally. And I figured I'd check for those while we were both going up. And I know you found at least 1 or 2 tracks while you were in there that you were trying to film. And I was watching you actually with your camera, and you're dialoguing or monologuing, and you're, talking about whatever you're filming and everything. And I'm like, oh, cool, he's finding things. And I'm filming what I'm looking at. And occasionally I'm filming the ground and I'm looking over my shoulder to make sure you're still there and something didn't happen, because we're the only 2 people there, right? Well, right. We weren't the only ones there. We were the only 2 humans there, but we weren't the only ones there. And I'm going to show you guys some of the video right now of a bunch of people sent me screen captures and timestamps to look at. Robin McRae, Blaine Tyler found the one that I zoomed in on. I don't know if it was on purpose or accidental. I can't remember doing it. I may have just spotted something that didn't look right and zoomed in on it. And with the camera I got, you're not looking through an eyepiece. You got a little screen. So if the sun's in the wrong place, you can't see what you're looking at anyway, which it tends to happen a lot. I really don't like that feature of that camera. Okay, I'm back on the ground again. That's what I was walking through over there. When I stopped filming, it was up there. Anyway, oh, sorry about that. More of what the areas around these things look like. Just the amount in here. This is just like, other areas don't look like this. And so whether they're taking advantage of areas with an obscene amount of deadfall or they're actually creating it, it gets apparently one desired effect of stupid humans are too lazy and lumbering and clod-like to get through this stuff and don't want to walk through it. So consequently, we don't go far enough out into it to see what could be out in the middle of a big tangle of this kind of stuff. And this is like, believe it or not, it's pretty light compared to what we find in some of these places, where it's like even considerably bigger and more tangled. And it's just such a pain in the butt to walk through, humans don't go through there. So whether they're picking these spots because But, you know, anyway, I zoomed in on him for 13 seconds. He's lying behind a log, peeking up over it with his eyes and the bridge of his nose barely over it. And you can see the whole top of his head. And I asked Blaine, how'd you notice that? And he goes, oh, he's obvious as hell. He's got the light shining off his hair on the other side of his head. And I'm like, well, forgive me for being a complete idiot and not being able to notice it. At least I zoomed in on it. And then at another point when I'm walking through there, and you guys might remember this part, I'm off the ground. I'm walking literally on the timber tangle like it's scaffolding, and I'm 6-7 feet up in the air. And I get way up on one of them, and there's another one in front of me about 80 or 100 feet, and I zoom in on that one at the base of it. And there's one, maybe two of them underneath that watching me, and I got one of them's face on camera real clear. So I'm going to show you guys that one too.
Sorry about that, trying to cling precariously and with the camera one-handed again. Yeah, this is fun. Cling precariously and with the camera one-handed again.
So yeah, they were following us around, and they were right near where you were at, and they were probably zapping your camera, and that's why you weren't getting anything. Friggin' meanie forest ninjas. So we survived that, and we got out of there again, and then we jumped in the truck, and we made a couple stops going up the river to check various spots for any sign of tracks or anything. Didn't have much luck, and we got up to Camp B, and then I started walking around trying to do this comparison video from when we had been there with Kevin and Caveman a couple years before. And as soon as we put that out, I had 4 different people send me that particular timestamp that they're all over the place in here. And Bama BF said one of them across the river behind a tree. And the first time I go across the tree, you can see what looks like a little bulge lower on one side and a little bit higher on the other side of the tree, a black bulge. And then the second time I go across it, neither one of them is there. There's just one bulge down at the base of the tree, where apparently there was one peeking around the tree, his head on one side and butt on the other. And when I came back the second time with the camera, it had ducked down. There's also another one that's on my side of the river that's right where the boulders are going down my side of the river, down river there. And as I'm walking, you can see him stick his head up in between these boulders and look at me. There might be another bigger one over the left-hand side of him that looks like at one point it's stepping back into the tree line as I'm starting to come forward so I wouldn't catch it. But the other one just stuck his head right up. That was obvious. And then 3 different people told me when I was zooming in on that piece of where the little stand of pine trees is right there, where they had seen one, he was right down by the ground. And I'm zooming in on that spot. If you look to the right and above it, 3 different people have told me there's actually one right there watching me. And as I start to zoom in, he backs off, so you can't see him. So very, very creepy stuff. We'll show you all that. And then after that, we got back to camp. And when we got back to camp, there was another guy there. Michael Matt had finally showed up. Yay!
Yay! Yeah.
Followed like right around dark. I think it was the Helena boys finally showed up with their big camper mobile and their two dogs, Zeus and Face Eater.
Oh, sir.
So I know you were pretty tuckered out by the time we got back at the end of that whole ordeal, all that tromping around. But you were holding up pretty good considering you just gotten zapped earlier that morning. Just to backtrack a bit, when everybody started telling me I needed to look at the 24-minute mark where we had been doing that comparison video, and there was apparently all kinds of, all over the place. So I was obliged to go through it and look at it in real slow motion. And keeping in mind, we had been there 2 years earlier, and we had been able to get across the river at that point. When me and Papa Craig were there, the river was way too high to try and wade across it. We would just get washed down the river into a log jam. But when we were there 2 years previously, there was a big log jam there, and the river was really low, and we could walk across it. So we scouted the other side of the river and found their trail over there and found where all of their hidey spots were where they observed that particular camp from. Got some really good ones. So while I was there with Papa Craig, I knew exactly where they would be sitting on that far side of the bank if they were over there. And when I went back and looked at that video in super slow motion, frame by frame, you can see in a couple of them where there are some there. You can see the shadow moving. Shadow don't move around. So yeah, we had them all over us when we were there. And that, remember the other thing that was there? There was that lone biker that was going to camp there that night.
Yeah, the lone biker, and we told him about it might be kind of dangerous to be where he was. So just be aware and be careful.
Kind of springish, and you're in grizzly country, and B, there's Sasquatch around here, and we know there's Sasquatch around here, and you might want to take a campsite a little further down the river, but that's up to you.
Yes, and he kind of chuckled and said he'd be fine. And they got some tiny.
I hope he never sees the video and sees the breakdown of the stuff that we were filming while we were there.
Right, because they were already all around watching him.
Yep. They're all curious. What's this idiot on a bike doing here this time of year? I mean, there's still snowbanks up there. Keep this in mind. That's why they're giving him the one over, like, potential mental defective. Keep a close eye on this one. He was from, where did he say, Oregon or something?
Seattle.
Seattle. He had biked way the hell over from Seattle. So, yeah, that was a long, long bike ride already. So draw what you will of your own conclusions from that. If he comes up on missing 411, we might be able to weigh in on what happened to him. But we were up there last month, and there wasn't any torn up tent or any stuff lying around or anything. So apparently he survived and got out of there, we hope.
Usually people do, almost always.
Usually almost always, or they end up in a missing 411 book, one or the other.
Or they go camp in town and get ate by a grizzly.
Yeah, you get attacked by a grizzly camping in a park downtown. And we are back with Michael Matt, all the way from up north of me in the same state.
Big state.
Oh yeah, we're here to cover the expedition that we had in June, where we had the whole team together and we did the full recon of the valley, trying to figure out where everything was road-wise, and had, like I said, again, the full team. What do we have, 7, 8 people up there?
Let me see here. Yeah, there was me, you, Papa Craig. There was Hawk and his brother, and then Ashton and Austin.
Yeah, so 7 of us, yep. So big old crew. And again, you know, you guys have already heard what happened the first day when me and Papa Craig got up there, and it was the second evening when Mike showed up, and you at least beat the the Helena boys there. They were they showed up after you did,
Fashionably late, yeah.
and you're
Yep.
from much further away, so
Yeah. It was at least a
well,
4-hour drive to get there, so.
yeah. Mike moved up north recently here, so he's much further away than he used to be. So it takes much more long driving to get here and do things. So we're lucky we can get him to show up. But again, we do have other members of our team that don't get here nearly as often. And this month here in August, we've got two of them showing up. Galen's coming from over, and we're Portland, where he's near, and Shane's coming over from Spokane. So we'll have those two guys back. They haven't been over here since 2019 was the last time they were over here.
Yep. With and Kevin.
Yep, Kevin and Caveman are up here. Right on. Well, I'll let you take the floor then. After you came up the pass and you got there, and we all met up, and Helena boys got there. I don't remember if much of anything happened that night, the first night that you got there. Did we hear anything?
I don't remember hearing anything that first night. I showed up while you and Papa Craig were up at the teepee filming that tangle of trees. And I was basically setting up my tent, and Hawk and his brother finally showed back up, and then we chatted and waited for you guys to get there. But no, I don't remember a whole lot happening that first night. It was pretty quiet.
Yeah, we had run way down the valley to the permanent big teepee down there, and walked through the old timber tangle, and then went up to Camp B where we had camped in 2019, and tried to shoot some video to show where Caveman and Shane had been sitting when they saw one sneaking up on camp in the dark. And of course, while I was filming it, they were there. And so I'll have to show you some little clips of that here. These are mostly found by Bama Bigfoot, but also Blaine Tyler spotted the same chunk of video and said, you need to take a look at this closer. There's a bunch of stuff going on there. And yeah, so lots of fun, but always more disturbing to find it after the fact too.
Yeah, a bunch of photobombing going on.
Apparently we were the center of attention that weekend. So after that first night was over, then we did the full recon of the valley that next day. And what are your thoughts and memories on that?
Well, I got to dust off the old memory bank there. 2 months, and I've been busy, with my move and all that stuff. But I remember we gathered and we drew a rudimentary kind of diagram of the valley that we were going to try and accomplish, splitting up into teams to do the recon. And we have that video.
See the map. If you're walking with us, come over here. Come on, Hawk, you too.
I wasn't planning on walking, Duke.
Okay. Okay, everybody, here's the deal. There's the Skelco Pass Road. We're right in the middle of it. That's over there. Here's the road that's coming into the valley. Excuse me. Here's the road that's coming into the valley, sinking into the valley. And then you get a little bit further down. You got the one going down the one end. And then here's where that little river is. And then the other one that turns and goes up the other loop around the other side of the valley. Now what me and Mike have noticed on reconning the valley here, you go away about halfway up the valley here before it starts to slope upward. There's a little access road that cuts back this way. And it was heavily trafficked, so we walked into it, and there was people had been going in there wood cutting. There were big rutted roads and stuff. And we were starting to see structures and stuff, and got back part way in, and then had to come back out again. And then up here you got the arch road that goes in this way. We've driven a little ways in each time, but it's always like too iffy for a vehicle, we need to walk it. And then when you go up here, here's where Kevin discovered the area with the giant arch and the upside down X structure, which they now put a sign up saying no road access, don't try and drive in here no more. So we don't know where that one goes to. And then you go up toward the end of the valley here where it dead ends, and it's non-motorized access only beyond that.
right before that, again, there's like a little pull-out area there, and there's a road that goes back in here. There's a little stream that crosses it, which is why we haven't bothered to walk it. And then it just goes in here. So my guesstimate, all these connect, right? Let's go find out for sure.
You and I went as a team, and then Papa Craig and was it Austin were a team, and then Ashton, separate thing with his mighty dog.
Yeah. And we got everybody except Papa Craig and Austin on video. They must not have shot anything when they went. And all they did was just drive in and go, well, that's as far as you can drive in. They turned around and came back. They didn't try walking in beyond that or anything. That's why we didn't run into them.
Yeah, because we eventually did intersect where they should have, been.
Yeah.
Because we had tried the one spot that was blocked off that Kevin had found some tree structures, and the trail basically kind of just petered out and was lost to the woods.
Okay, we're on the structure road. There's been idiots back in here logging, cutting everything down. A bunch of the stuff that was in here before is gone now. But they also blocked off the road to any more you can't drive in now. So we're hiking in to see if this does actually connect up here further in. It's a pretty tenuous trail to start with, but we'll see. Get back with you.
Yeah, the fact that it's probably what, 5.5, 6 feet, at least 6 feet.
What?
From there to there. Yeah. And it's just supported there.
It's interesting that it landed like that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, of all the places it could have landed, it lands right on top of that. And then, is this cut? Nope, that's busted. Huh. Very, very interesting. Oh. Okay, let's see what he's pointing at. Yeah, the fact that it's probably what, 5.5, 6 feet, at least 6 feet.
What?
From there to there. Yeah. And it's just supported there.
It's interesting that it landed like that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, of all the places it could have landed, it lands right on
And
top
that
of
was when we were down in that little meadow down at the base of the hill. It was right next to the river and had that, it looked like a cow path, elk and moose trail beaten into the ground going across it. And then we went, well, it doesn't look like whatever this sort of almost road was, doesn't seem to go any further from here. And that piece of video, while I'm waiting for Mike to catch back up with me and I'm walking along filming those animal tracks, I zoom way out and I just kind of spin in a circle. And sharp-sighted Shane, who will be back with us again this month, spotted one standing there next to a tree. And when you look at it closely, there's actually one over his shoulder too. You can see this brown head with the hair watching back behind him too. So there was two of them that were following us around down in that area.
Okay, we came down until the trail petered out and disappeared. And we're down a little valley down here. There's no trail or anything down here that we can find yet. I'll look a little bit more, but I don't think that's it. So we may have to actually go back up the valley to the last turnoff up there and walk down that one and see if that's the connecting trail. But you get down here and there's a ton of deer and elk tracks all over the place. Water here, you got access to one of the little rivers in the valley right there. And then back over this way, we got a game trail here. Yeah. Guess who's been walking down this game trail? This thing is like a pit. This is this game trail gets used by everything out here. It looks like a cow path. There's no cows in this valley. Poodoo. Must be a bantha path. In case you're wondering. I haven't seen any no Sasquatch tracks yet. If you can see this right in front of my foot. Yeah. Pretty big. Lots of big mixed Sasquatch menu items running around up here. all this stuff in here. So anyway, we're going to head back out and go back to that other access road and see if that's the one that goes through. And we'll get back with you guys.
inquisitive.
Well, they may have been concerned because we were stupidly walking into where, you know, a bunch of elk and moose were calving. Kind of not the best place to be when you don't have weapons or anything. But yeah, it could be they're just curious, following us around, seeing where the idiot humans are wandering off to. So that was it for that area. We just wandered back to the vehicle, hopped in, and then went further back up the road where we had just come from, where there was another access there. And again, the same thing where they had put up these signs, no motorized access, you can't go in here, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay. And that one was the one that actually did connect. We walked in and that thing went through.
Yeah, like I said, our feet aren't motorized, so we just kept walking. And it did connect up there to Arch Road, as we call it. And, it goes left to Arch Road or went right to more ups and downs and through the woods and to the river that you could cross when it's really, really shallow, which who knows, it might be shallow enough to cross the next time we're up there.
Oh yeah, well, we went across it this last month when we were there. We walked across it, so we could do it this coming month for sure. I mean, this month when we're there. So yeah, we could actually walk that all the way back to the far side of the valley where it probably starts out at and complete the mystery of where all these roads connect up. But that one's kind of a gimme. We're pretty sure of that one.
All right. So the road that Duke and I are walking is down there. He's over that direction somewhere. I saw this and thought I would at least document it. Which is interesting. And there's a lot of tangle up and through here. I know back in 2018 on a different ridge, Duke and I found tangles like this where trees either fell or brought in. I was just kind of curious. I wonder if this is one of their playground areas. Doesn't look like any of these are cut. Like, where's the root ball for this? It's just here. A lot of these ends are sticking up. And no root balls, no root systems nearby. So it's just one of those things. It's just curious and had to come investigate. All because I saw this from the distance. So if this is one of your guys' structures, thank you. Just lets us come in and look. We appreciate it, and I love the construction you do.
Now we've actually gotten across that river and went over on the other bank there, and that the expedition we're talking about here in June was the first time we came through that series of trails and came up and went, hey, look, big rock, and walked down from the big rock, and here's the river, and got down there, and I went, what's that thing over there that looks like a Sasquatch? And I zoomed in on it. Well, last month we went back to that same spot, same time of the day, and took comparison video. And mysterious object was not there. So make what you will of that.
We're down at the river. Hey, there's Mike, filming the river. So here's the upriver spots that he didn't film yet. And there's campers over there now on our side of the river. Trying to find the spot I zoomed in on. I think it's right there.
But at that time, it was also, the river was shallow enough, we waded it. And we went
Yes.
across and walked around back in there. And of course, I found another big honking moose track going through a mud puddle and stuff like that. And we may have caught something following us around in there. We still got to review the video. We'll let you guys help us with that.
Yeah. That was kind of a fun adventure. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a really grueling day hike to that we did in the Valley Recon that day. We did a lot of walking, and then you went back and got the vehicle. And since we knew that the where we were at actually connected to the Arch Road, I decided to walk out through the Arch Road to see how far out that was. And I got about halfway out, and then you came in with a vehicle and got me, and we went back to the campsite.
Yeah, that was quite a bit of walking. That was probably 4 miles, around at least 4 or 5.
Yeah, it felt like a lot more because there was this whole series of ATV trails that people had made in there, and we pretty much walked all of it and explored all of those. And like the last one just went out in the middle of nowhere to a hilltop and dead ended. And then if you go past it, there was like a deer trail. So we followed the deer trail, which curved back around the hill down by the valley and back to the ATV trail again.
Yeah.
It just came back out again.
Yeah.
The dead end trail in the middle of nowhere, always disturbing.
Yeah, I remember you were a little concerned, like, this might not lead to anything. We're just gonna get lost. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I hear the river, this direction. And then we could see the ATV trail. I'm like, yep, it's right there. We're good. We'll be okay. But I mean,
Yeah, at that point, my ankle's about to give out, so I'm like not in favor of extra walking.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, if something was to happen out there, I mean, nobody was going to be around there to hear it or help. So,
Yeah.
luckily, it wasn't too far to get back to the easy trail.
Yeah, I know the campers that were back there at the far end of the Arch Road, as far as you could drive in with a vehicle, not an ATV, seemed pretty surprised when I came walking out from the woods, middle of nowhere, and I got this battle axe, and I'm sitting there twirling the battle axe, and they're like looking at me like, "What the?" Hey guys, hi.
Here's the wild man in the woods with his axe.
Yeah, wild man walks out with battle axe. I remember one of them said, "Can you throw that thing?" And I said, "Well, I used to do competitions, and but I don't do that anymore. I'm too old." And just twirl a little bit. Twirl the battle axe. You guys seen the end video? Throw battle axe before. Stick battle axe in tree, easy. So anyway, Mike saved me and picked me up, and before my ankle gave out, and we got back to camp, and then the Helena boys wanted to leave because God knows they had been there 24 hours already. And the powers of tenacity. But before they left, they still wanted to see the Super X, which they hadn't seen the Super X. And Mike knew exactly where the Super X was, so he could take them to it. But it was getting close to dark, so I kind of wasn't in favor of that. And Mike more or less talked me into it, and I made him assure me that he could get up there and back before dark with whoever wanted to go with him, which, as it turned out, was the Helena boys and Papa Craig. And I was too beat up from walking around the valley all day. I wasn't going anywhere. So I just stayed in camp by myself. Team LOD left. And I just sat there and waited for these guys to make it back down again. Now, while they were gone, I started feeling guilty because I was well aware of the fact that we were being heavily followed that weekend. And they're wasting a bunch of time and effort following us around. They're not hunting and getting food to eat. And I never feed them usually, but I wanted to kind of make it up to them. So I went over to my cooler, and I had 4 bear claw pastries that I had gotten from the donut shop on the way up there, and ate 2 of them. There's still 2 left. So I went upriver to where one had stepped out in the open and let Sunny see him the previous summer when I was up there with her. There was a big log there. So I just put him on the log and left him there. And I came back to camp, and about maybe 15, 20 minutes later, it was starting to get fairly dark, and I was getting worried. And you guys finally came trotting down the hill. And of course, Papa Craig in the back, still the rubber band legs from getting zapped the day before. He still wasn't moving very fast, so he was at the back of the pack. And I remember he finally came in and he goes, Duke, something was following us. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, well, as soon as we left that hillside out there, I could hear something following us. And I stopped a couple of times and I could hear something take one more step. And I'm like, okay.
Yep, it would stop when I would stop, but it was a step late. And came in, sat down at camp, and my gosh, the same sound showed up off to, what would that be? Off.
To your right, you're facing the campfire.
Yeah, off to my right, and I said, Duke, something's right over there. And
I said, where? Right. And you pointed.
Right.
And you pointed to the exact spot where I had left those 2 little bear claws for him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, huh. I figured, of course, nobody in camp knew I did that. And I never feed them. And that was the only time ever. And I figured, it's just a deer got it or a raccoon got it or something. And nothing to worry about. So I don't remember there being any other really distinguishable, obvious noises other than that night. I think somebody heard a whoop or something.
Yeah, I heard whoops every now and again. Not very often, I think I heard a couple of whoops, one howl maybe, and a couple of wood knocks the whole weekend.
Yeah, so it wasn't a really big audio weekend. They were kind of being quiet. So yeah, the next day we everybody got all packed up and we went up to where the Super X was supposed to be but wasn't there. And they had found the right place. We went right to it. It just wasn't there.
It's missing.
They had taken it down. And I've been reviewing the video we shot when we found that thing and stuff too. And you go look back at the video that we shot in June and how much ground clutter there is, how much timber is laying on the ground. There's no standing dead trees to speak of in that original video. Where did all that ground clutter come from? And most of it, if you look at it, it hasn't got any roots attached to it. There's no stump there. And I went over because the wing X was still there, the little smaller X that they had on the side of it. So I went over to film that and went, this establishes we're in the exact same place because here's the little wing X that's right next to the one that we filmed. That and the 7 boulders, we know we're in the exact right place. Well, I was walking over and filming that wing X and zooming in. There was a young female Sasquatch down the hill from it watching us. And after we came back and put the video up, Blaine Tyler spotted her and sent a screen capture to me. Now, last month, me and Mike were up there and tromped back to the same exact spot, shot the comparison video. She isn't there. Now, if I had known then what I know now, I would have been turning to my right and taking more comparison video. Because apparently while I was walking along with the camera going toward that X, there was possibly 2 of them, at least one of them, that were over on my right-hand side where there was a whole bunch of logs laying together, and it looked like the bigger, older one, possibly a female, is behind the log pile, and a little younger, juvenile one is like poking up out of it, watching me. So now I have to go back there again to shoot comparison video, and this is another one of those spots where, yes, I can find it within 2 square feet. It will be an accurate comparison video, and so either there's 2 stumps there that are just like stunningly, amazingly pareidolia-ish that make you think they're Sasquatch, or those objects aren't there and those were Sasquatch 30 feet away from me, in which case I caught 3 Sasquatch on video within about a minute, all in the same place. So they were swarming us, dude. They were following us around big time is what I'm saying.
Okay. Additionally, we've got over here on the side, we got an X structure, a smaller X. You guys, if you go look at the Super X video, would see that we barely paid any attention to, but when I was standing underneath it, I was sort of filming around it off to the side. There's an X. So get you up a little closer. X marks the spot. But if you go over here, there's an axe. So let's get you up a little closer. Hey guys, it's August. Here we are. We're up on top of the ridge line where it goes further up the mountain. As you can see, as I wasn't saying, but I should have been, there's the 7 boulders all in a row. There's the 2 giant boulders stacked on top of each other. And that's where the Super X used to be. Here to try and line up some comparison shots.
So we walked around up there a little bit more, and Mike said, hey, let's go see if that other X on the other side of the ridge line is still there. You know, he had been down there the year previous trying to film it, and his camera wouldn't focus. His cell phone wouldn't focus. So he finally got that worked out and got video of it. So he goes down there, and he's like, hey, guys, you might want to look at this. And we're like, okay. So we go walking over to the edge of this huge ridge line. You're looking down, you know, like 70, 80 feet. There's this ginormous teepee. I'm like, well, that wasn't there last year. And Mike goes, yeah, this is where the X was. Now it's a teepee.
Yeah.
A huge one.
thing. Huge. I don't. How tall do you think that was? I wasn't real good at judging right then. 40,
Oh, God.
50?
Well, I was, yeah, I'd say somewhere in that range because I was up at the top of the ridge and I was almost looking level with where the top was coming together. And when I zoomed in down on the bottom, I was like, Michael, stand out in the open so I can get a comparison shot. I couldn't find him in the viewfinder. He's too little. He had to like stand out in the open and go, wah, 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 like this. And I'm like, okay, zoom in. There's Mike. Now I can zoom back out again. There's this ridiculous, gigantic, you know, building size structure they're making. It's got to be 40, 50 feet tall. Now, the following month when we were up there with Aaron, we went back and checked it out again. And guess what? Michael had to pull out his cell phone and look at it and go, wait, I was just up here last month. This doesn't look the same. And he looked at the video. He looked at the video and he went, when we were up here with Papa Craig, that pine tree, that 40-foot pine tree right there was standing straight up. Now
Yeah.
it's bent over, and the top of it is underneath the teepee. So that happened in between when you were here and when Aaron was here. So we're filming them actually building this thing. We're not getting them physically building it, but we're going there every so often, and they've changed things and they've added things on.
Yeah,
So-
there's some gaps in there that'll be good, indicator if they're still doing it. If they fill those gaps in.
Yep, and that's part of the fun of going to these same places and filming the video over and over again, because you can go back and look at the old video and go, wait, that doesn't look right. And you're like, yeah, that live pine tree there, that was standing straight up a month ago, and there hasn't been any storms. And how did the top get bent over 25 feet so now it's under the teepee?
Yeah.
Very, very strange stuff. So anyway, that was fun. And that was pretty much it. I don't think we did anything else after that. Wasn't that pretty much the end of it?
Yeah, that was the end. Yeah.
We had
Yeah.
to take off because you had a horrendous 10-hour drive back that you had to do.
Right, and I had to go slow, so it took 12. And then in the Nez Pierce Reservation, right by their headquarters, they had 8 people reporting a Sasquatch running down the hill on the wide open hillside down there by Lewiston as I drove by, and I didn't know it.
Wow.
That's pretty funny.
They're still chasing you out of the county all the way over there.
Yeah.
You better keep driving so we have to throw you off. So anyway, what was your overall perception of the thing? Obviously, it was, grueling to drive there and back again. And the first night was there. It was so cold. It got down to the low 20s because my drink kept freezing solid, and I'd have to break the ice to get a sip off of it. So it was brutally cold, authentically brutally cold. And even with all the winter gear and a campfire and everything, it was brutally cold. And then poor Craig gets zapped shortly after. Great welcome. Hey, it's
Quite
super
an
cold. I'm
experience.
freezing to death. Now the locals are zapping me. I'm going to bed. Wave of terror.
That wave of terror was that was the icing on the cake for them, little brats.
Yeah. Well, they got an attitude. They're pretty picky about who they let hang around. Let's just say that.
This
And
is what you get. Yeah, this is what you get for not bringing Nana.
I'm frequently surprised that they'll put up with me. Apparently they think I'm funny, otherwise they probably wouldn't. I'd just be annoying. But when I got back, I contacted Robin. As you guys know, Robin McCrae, the Associate Director of International Hominology of Forest People. And she had told me that she would be in communication, mind speak with him. And when I got back, she gave me the report, and everything was okay, and they weren't super mad or anything, and it was all good. There was apparently one member of my team that they didn't like very much, and so he's not allowed up there anymore, even though I can go do research with him in other parts of Montana. That particular group doesn't like him, so he can't go up there anymore, I guess. Then I told Robin to tell him that, and keeping in mind I just got back, it's late at night and I'm talking to her. And I said, well, let him know that I won't bring him up there anymore. And there was a little pause, and they said thank you, and they said thanks for the treats you left on the log. She had no way of knowing that I had left any treats on the log. I didn't even tell anybody in the group that. Right?
Right.
Much less her sitting out on the East Coast. So yeah. So apparently a raccoon didn't get the 2 bear claw pastries.
Nope, don't think they're at that elevation either.
Well, that was something you brought up afterwards, and I agree with you. I've seen their tracks further down the pass, like closer down to where that teepee is and stuff, right where we went down there. I've seen sign of them down there, but up in that valley where we're at, I really haven't seen any sign of them up there. So you could be right. We could be at too high of an elevation up there. Even in the summer, they're just like, meh, no.
Right, they love the brushy stuff down below.
Yeah, they seem to do good down there. Well, was there anything you wanted to add about your, let's go with the crazy lunatic Montana Bigfoot project on an expedition for a weekend field trip?
The only thing is that was an absolute blast. That was a lot of fun. The drive was fun. Everything but getting zapped.
I don't think anybody's going to count that as fun. So you're in good
No.
company on it. Everybody else that's been zapped are all like, yeah, you Sasquatch suck. Don't zap me. That hurts.
But I got a long history of being, going on repeat fish boat trips where I get my butt half beat to death by the ocean and kept going for 15 years. So I'm not too big a wimp.
No, well, you're not a wimp at all. You're the oldest guy there, and you were doing just fine. You're outpacing some of the younger guys half the time. And the other thing is that it's an attitude thing. It's like, well, what are you there for? Are you there to be coddled and glamp and be a glamper,
Right.
or are you there to do like an actual adventure that you can, tell your relatives about? Hey, I survived going out to the Sapphire Mountains with Duke's crazy team of lunatic Bigfoot researchers.
Right.
I should actually make commemorative shirts for that. I survived an expedition with Duke.
Yeah.
There's a reason he doesn't charge people.
Oh yeah.
That's right. There's no disclaimers to sign saying I get my money back if I get zapped. No, I'm not taking any money. Well, it was great having you here, and I'm glad that you enjoyed yourself, even though you got zapped. And honestly, I feel terrible about that, but I have no control over those guys. I just try and get along with them as best I can and don't make them mad. Because somebody can make a 6-story tall X structure. I do not want them mad at me. That's my.
No way do you want them mad at you. Whatever can pick up them trees and put them in that crotch of that teepee structure. Good Lord.
Yeah, and you
That's
saw
huge.
the other regular old gargantuan size axes that we found up there. You were with when we found the first one. We found another one on that same hillside, same size, the next month.
Ah.
Yeah, they're just out of eyesight of each other.
I'll be darned. I wonder if that second one's new.
I think probably because we didn't notice it when we were up there the month before, and there's a whole area of knockdown timber over there. And some of these trees are gigantic. And I had Erin there with me, and she goes, "Wow, that must have been quite a windstorm." And I said, "You sure it's a windstorm?" She goes, "Well, sure." I went, "Well, then how come the trees aren't laying in the same direction? Turn around." And she turned around, and right behind her, there's 2 massive root balls that are as tall as we are standing up, coming out of the ground from these 2 trees that have fallen in opposite directions, and they're only about 30 feet from each other.
Ah.
If straight line wind's big enough to knock a tree that big over, they're all going to go in the same direction.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've got lots of videos now of all of them just laying in a line. I was trying to remember. I saw that somewhere in Montana too, but I can't remember where it was now.
Oh, you've even had huge windstorms like that when I was living in Minnesota. We had one come through that had like 90-mile-an-hour straight line winds. This was like a hurricane, and everything that's not firmly rooted to the ground or old or something, snappity snap, and it all goes in the same direction.
Right.
And same thing when a tornado hits it, it makes a path of destruction. The stuff on the periphery of it could be tangled and lying in any direction, but there'll be an actual area of devastation where there's like wiped out everything when it came through. And none of this stuff looks like that. There's a lot of the smaller trees that are still standing. The trees that should have went down first, they're still there.
Right.
And some of
Right.
these bigger ones that went down, they're not even laying in the same direction. They're, opposite direction, 30 feet apart. Really?
Right.
And there was no huge storms in between when we were there and when we were there in July. There wasn't any storms. It was dead weather. It was dry. It didn't rain a drop. There wasn't any windstorms. There wasn't any rain. So what made that happen? Whoa, boy. And you're getting rain over there right now. So I'm going to let you go.
No, we're getting ripped off. We just got the wind and the thunder and the lightning, and now it's gone.
Oh, maybe it's saving it all up for when it gets here. Fingers crossed.
Our last one did.
We need more rain. We only got a day of it in the last almost 50 days.
Oh, I know.
So very bad. For all of you elsewhere, the Pac West is burning down big time.
Yeah, well, and I'm sure this upcoming trip with the other guys that haven't been up there to that area, they'll be impressed with the other structure that had been added on to from last year when we're going up there and doing comparison shots. Because last year, below the Super X, there was another big X at the base of the holler. And when we're up there this year, it looks like more trees have been added to it. That we're just kind of suspicious how they're leaning, and it's starting to form like a big teepee, and it's huge.
Yeah. Well, it didn't transform itself from an X into a giant teepee. And then we haven't even released this video yet, but we were there last month, and they changed it again. They took a fully healthy, 40-foot tall pine tree. It's about 20 feet away from the teepee, and they bent the top over and stuck it underneath the teepee. And it wasn't there the month before.
Yep, and we have video evidence of that, and it's like, well, obviously some human isn't out here bending this full tree down underneath this other tree to form a and it's not.
There's no storm there's been no storm in the preceding month to account for it. There wasn't any bad weather at all. We're having drought, no rain, no windstorms. Nothing like that can account for it. Plus, the month before, it's standing straight up. Now all of a sudden, it's been like the teepee's over here. It's here. Now all of a sudden, the top of it's underneath it. How the hell does that happen?
Yeah, that was just really weird because I was showing Aaron that, and then I was like, wait, I do not recognize this, Duke. I don't recognize this. So then I pulled out my phone and brought up the video from June. I'm like, there's no arch right here. This is new. They've added to it.
Yeah, it's superstructure under construction. The Forest Construction Inc. is working on it. Now, the other thing you forgot to mention is, you remember when we were up there by the Super X, which used to be there but isn't anymore. I'm walking around filming, and I'm just coming back from that Wing X, and I'm walking toward Mike, and I go, there's Mike. And in the video, you'll see Mike going, hey, there's Duke there, and he's filming me. That film does not appear because for some reason Mike's camera turned itself off. And this is that area where your cell phone, excuse me. This is that area where we keep having these issues with electronic equipment, just like doesn't want to work all of a sudden.
I was filming Duke, who was a little bit up the hill, and I was trying to pan towards where the Super X was, but halfway through the panning, my camera cut out. And I didn't realize it till I was halfway down the hill to look at the other structure and notice that it was changed into a teepee. But it was just weird that we keep having some anomalous things happening with the equipment when we're in that area.
Well, and I should also bring up the first time you had the weird thing with your cell phone won't focus.
Yeah.
It was at the X down the hill from there. You'd gone downhill from there and went, hey, there's another X down here. It's not as big as that one, but it's really big. I'm going to film it, and it wouldn't focus. And now we come there this year, and they've changed that X into a giant teepee.
But yeah, and on that point, in June when we found that big old rock outcrop down by the river, my phone had issues with focusing again. And just like last time, I had to use a hum, in a different frequency to get it to clear itself up. But I had to use a different frequency. When I tried the growl again, it cleared it up momentarily. But as soon as I stopped with the growl, it went right back to blurry. So then a higher hum, I was like, and then it cleared right up. And then also last month when we were, I think we were by that cabin. Yeah. We were at the cabin, and you'll see like a 1 second video clip. I started recording, and it was blurry again, and I stopped recording, but my camera was still in camera mode, and so I did a different frequency, and it cleared up again, so then I could record what we were intending to record. So it's just weird that in some of these areas I'm getting some video distortion that is being cleared up with a vibrational frequency.
It makes you wonder if they're using the infrasound to mess with the electronics somehow. And interesting to note that when you had that problem over by the big rock promontory next to the river, before that is where we had been down in that pasture, that little valley next to the river further out there, and caught two of them on video. And right after this happened to you, I caught one across the river from us on video.
Yeah, well, not since I was at the top of the outcropping. I was in perfect shot to get messed with. Or my camera.
You're right out in the open, obvious target from everywhere. We don't know what the hell their range is. Maybe they can be sitting across the river from you and zap you. We don't know.
Yeah, well, and I didn't feel anything as much as just my equipment is being weird, and it's weird because it can record in 4K. I mean, I have it set to a little bit less than that, just that way it doesn't take up as much memory, but it's still more than 1080p, and it shouldn't be fuzzy like that. And I tried cleaning the lens before, but normally it will let me know if the lens is dirty. But the fact that using a hum or a growl is what clears it up, that's just suspicious to me that it's something else.
Very much so. Well, and then the other suspicious thing that happened there was that apparently they were just messing with Papa Craig's camera, because he shot over an hour of video and he ended up with 1 minute of video and four pictures. And he's used that camera every weekend since then. It's always worked flawlessly. He cannot account for what happened and why his camera wasn't working. But again, like we were just talking about when we were up by where the Super X used to be, and Mike's right in the middle of filming, and all of a sudden his camera turned itself off.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell is that? It just turns itself off.
Yep. So, yeah, it just leads some credibility to the theory that they're able to, alter things with our camera equipment and recording equipment.
Yeah, I'm leaning toward it just from the firsthand experiential evidence, and then I also have people like Robin McRae that tell me that out of what she's been able to figure out the different cryptids can do and stuff, guess who are the best and most expert at messing with electronic equipment? Sasquatch. Yeah, they're like the kings of it. They can do all kinds of things with it that you would not expect them to be able to do. So that's unfortunate too, because it would be really nice to know that if there was something like that going on, you could attribute it to entities or ghosts or some other aspect of the paranormal. If this weird electronic stuff is going on, it's definitely not Bigfoot. But unfortunately, that's not the case. They do seem to have plenty. They're probably the best at doing this stuff. So, yeah, how many times have you heard that from researchers and stuff? Where I got brand new batteries in it, and all of a sudden it just died. The batteries were dead.
Yeah.
My game cams keep dying.
Or ones that I've heard is like the camera's battery will drain and turn off, but then once they're out of the area, the battery is fully charged again.
Yeah.
And they're able to turn their equipment back on.
Yep.
So
I had that happen to me once when we were out there. I had my camera, I was trying to film, and all of a sudden the light went blinky, blinky, battery dead. Pulled it out, took it out. I have backup battery. Slap that in there. Blinky, 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 battery dead. Well, this one ain't dead. I just charged it and I haven't used it. So I take that one out, put it in my pocket, pull out the other battery that was supposedly dead, put it in. Now it works fine.
Yep. Darn Sam's.
That doesn't make any sense, Mike. That just does not make any sense whatsoever.
Well, and it begs the question, remember last month when Erin was with us, and hers randomly just died, even though it was fully charged.
Yeah.
And that was what, down there by the teepee area, that she only got 20 minutes of video time or recording time, like while we were there, but her battery drained in that short period.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, it's just it's one of those things about being curious, but it makes me wonder what's on that next ridge line over that we haven't looked at yet.
And we haven't crossed the river there by the TP, so who knows what's on the other side.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and even near our camp, we haven't really walked around on the other side of the river that much because we've kind of left that to be their area, and we don't disturb them there. Just the last time we were up there, we walked over there and showed Aaron where the huge asterisk structure is, and where they have two giant X's marking it, a white one and a black one, which I thought was kind of cool. But same thing with the hillside over there where the other mega structures are on our side of the river. They've got two new gigantic X's that they set up there. Mike found one of them, and I found the other one, and they weren't there the month before.
Nope.
So that's it's fun watching them take stuff down and put new stuff up, but it's kind of disturbing too. I remember when we were standing up there, there was a big boulder on the far side of that ridge line from camp on the far side of it, and there was a bunch of timber that was laying at it and across it at weird angles, and you had walked over to look at it to make sure that it was just like natural and not something they were building. And while you were doing that, I was talking to Erin, and she goes, "Wow, it looks like quite the windstorm went through here." And I go, "What makes you think it's a windstorm?" And she goes, "Well, look at all the trees knocked down to the giant. I mean, the root systems are like as tall as you are, sticking up out of the ground from where these huge trees went over." And I said, "Well, if it was a windstorm, shouldn't they all fall in the same direction?" She goes, "Yeah." And I went, "Turn around." And she turned around, and there's one laying this way, and there's one laying this way. And they're about 30 feet apart. That does not make sense from a windstorm doing that. And I surveyed it as I was coming in, angling across the ridge and looking at it. They're laying in different directions. So if you got a windstorm big enough to knock down these big trees in different directions and stuff, really it should have just flattened everything on that hillside.
Yeah, if it's that powerful, it should have knocked several of them in one direction.
Yeah, that's just really strange. You've got these really big trees, and the other thing that I actually documented this, and you guys will see it in the next video, that there's again the hauled in timber, because there were two trees that had fallen over. One fell down, and another one fell across it like this, and laying across both of those is an old dead tree with no roots, and there's no stump there. Where did that come from?
Yeah.
A full-size tree, not a twig or a branch from one of the other ones or something. Just where'd this tree come from? Why is the old dead dried up one laying on top of the new ones that were alive before they just fell over, presumably a few months ago? Why is this one that's probably been laying on the ground or, and where's the stump?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's documenting weird stuff like that can validate, that something weird is going on. It's not just tree fall, when we know that a lot of those trees were not even there the year prior or even a month prior.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. If you got that much damn deadfall all in one place, where's the stumps? Even if they were standing and dead for a long time and the wind blew them over, there's a stump there. Where is it?
Yep.
That's one of the things we started looking for. It's like, man, 2/3 to 3/4 of the timber that was there wasn't a stump or a root system connected to them.
Yep. Nope. They were just kind of laying all helter-skelter.
And again, Robin claims that they do that on purpose around areas where they got mega structures just to make it more difficult for humans to wander in or anybody else. Keep them away from them.
Yeah, well, hasn't occurred to us now, has it?
Yeah, but we're crazy.
Crazy Montana boys.
Well, if you think about it from the standpoint of your normal human, if they're going to be out there off trail like that, probably the only reason they would be doing it is if they were hunting. And if you're hunting something, you don't want to have to carry it like 5 frickin' miles back to the road. You want to shoot it fairly close in case you're shooting a moose or an elk or something, where it's going to take multiple loads to cart out all the meat anyway. So the idea for most hunters, even for a deer, which aren't all that big compared to some of this other stuff, if they start going into some of these really thick areas and stuff, man, the hunters don't want to go in there Because even if they do get the deer, they got to still carry it out through that nightmare. So it makes it really unappealing to go in there. And so that eliminates most of the thought process for humans wanting to go into an area like that to start with. Because the only people that'd even be inclined to do so would be hunters, and they take one look at it and go, I'm not dragging a deer through that. No.
Even with my backpack, which, when I load it up is probably what, 20, 30 pounds, even that is, adding a lot of extra, exertion, just trying to climb up over all that deadfall, going up and down these inclines as well as the trees. It's not easy.
Another thing folks should keep in mind when they're looking at the scenery of these areas we're walking through, it's obvious that it's pretty rough to walk around. There's lots of fallen timber and big boulders, and there really aren't paths or even deer trails or anything. We just kind of memorize it so we can find our way back again, which works so far, usually.
Yeah.
But we're not at sea level. We're at about the same altitude as Machu Picchu is, okay? So we are way, way up there. So in addition to the tough terrain, we've got the, not quite plentiful oxygen supply because we're not at sea level. So that makes it tougher. You get tired faster, and unless you're training for it and you're like a mountain climber type athlete or something, it beats on you pretty bad. Just being at that altitude, walking around will tire you out, and then you're trying to do all this other stuff too yet.
But, honestly, even though I'm out of shape, I get out there and just being away from all the radio waves and the noises and all the technology, my body actually feels healthier and younger. It really isn't that big of a trade-off for me. I'd actually rather be out there most of the time.
You'd probably do better living up there year round. Actually, I've noticed that too, that I'm getting actually capable of doing more hiking around up there than I was able to do like the year previous or the year previous to that. So I'm sort of building up some sort of mountaineering endurance, but it's not translating to the aftermath. Because
Right.
legally disabled, and I've got all these issues of scoliosis in my back and degenerative disc disease and blah blah blah. So it's like, yeah, I can actually cover more ground and I can push myself harder every year, but it hurts in equal amount every year.
Yeah.
And if you do too much, then you're like, well, I'm going to be not walking around hardly at all for the next 4 or 5 days after I get home. I'll spend a lot of time just kind of sitting there and not doing anything because I really won't be able to walk around very much.
Yeah.
And that's kind of discouraging too. Or you've probably seen it before too, where like doing pretty good the first day, second day having trouble walking, third day really having trouble walking.
Yeah.
After that, usually like we leave. We don't usually hang around much past that.
No. With my wife and kids and my job, it's like I got to get back to making that's taken care of.
As much as you'd like to just live up there for a month every summer or something, you can't get away to do it.
No.
You have minions to take care of.
And I do.
The minions. So was there anything else that you wanted to mention, or did we pretty much cover all of it for that trip?
That was pretty much most of the highlights. Like I said, it seemed like it was really quiet. Didn't really hear much for like knocks or any other vocals.
No. Yeah, and I agree with you. It seemed quiet around camp. It seemed like the only person who was hearing anything was Papa Craig, which is kind of ironic because he's the oldest guy there, Vietnam vet. And he was the one that was actually hearing stuff in the woods. Maybe he was just like trying to listen harder or something, and we're just used to it and we're ignoring it.
I mean, I heard, a couple things moving around, like when I was bringing them back from trying to find the Super X. I heard something over the ridge, but I'm like, well, if it's one of them, I'm not concerned. If it's a bear, while we're leaving, I'm not really concerned. But we still haven't really found any strong evidence of bear in the area.
We didn't find like really any evidence. The only time we found a bear track was on the outer rim of the valley, and it was aimed going out of the valley.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I wasn't too concerned, but yeah, just sitting there around the fire, it was really, really quiet. Because last year, I remember there were several times where there'd be repeating knocks at night and in the morning when we're getting up.
Yeah.
And this time it was pretty quiet.
Yeah, that was peculiar too. And the other thing is that, it seems like when we're there and there's lots of activity at night, we don't seem to have much of anything happening when we're walking around doing our hiking. And this time
Yeah.
was just the opposite. They weren't hardly active at all at night. And every time we went out there, they must have been on us like, you know, flies on extremely sweet candy laying in the sun melting. Because like, we caught a bunch of them on video apparently. So they were really following us around closely when we were up there in June. And in July, it didn't seem like it either. It seemed just, a lot quieter when we were there with Aaron in July.
Yeah. So I'm hoping, but I'm not gonna, expect to have more activity this next time. But it'd be really nice, because I know Shane and Galen are, experienced to be out in the woods, and they're both very friendly people. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping that having them plus us as regulars, that it might, bring in some inquisition and curiosity, and maybe, a couple vocals or two.
Yeah, well, Shane's been up there a few times. Galen was up there when Caveman and Kevin were here, so that was a little bit different campsite. But that's only what, a mile from the campsite we usually use.
Yeah, a mile, give or take, a couple 100 yards.
Pretty close because we're like the first campsite in the valley, and this is the first one outside the valley going down the pass toward the other side of the mountain range. So they're really close together, not that far. You could walk it in an hour or something. It wouldn't be that hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, that should be interesting. And Shane, in addition to having been with us up there several times, he has activity of them right at his house over in Spokane. They go through his backyard every so often. He finds tracks and stuff over there. So he's seen them over there. He's seen them over here. You go where they are, chances are fairly decent you might see one because, that's just the odds. Keep going out there, you'll see one.
Yep, I still got to explore the woods around my new hometown of Libby. When I'm driving up to either take stuff to the landfill or I'm driving to work back to Kalispell, I'm seeing these areas where there's a lot of lodgepole and there's things that look kind of suspicious, but I can't exactly tell because I'm going 70, 75 miles an hour.
Yeah. Wasn't that pretty much what you were doing when you had your first sighting? Because you saw that one lane and you saw something standing there and went, "What the bleep was that? That was way too big to be a human." And then the next time you came back and checked it, and like, yeah, no way, that was a human.
Yeah, it was way too big. It made me look like a kid, whatever was standing there. Yeah. So, and like I said, I got to explore some of these areas. I need to find out if they're any private property or if it's national forest area. I know there's some farming areas in the vicinity, and maybe I should stop and talk to one of them and see what's going on and see if it's kosher for me to go out there and just explore the hillside or two.
Yeah, you got to ask their permission, of course, but I think most of them would probably let you. The other thing, I've been up there before. I was up there visiting the Grizz for a few days, and there seems to be like the general public up there are pretty well aware that Sasquatch are there and that they're real. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of skeptics living in that area.
Yeah, no, it's a small, quiet place, mostly conservative. Most people are all about gun rights and going out and enjoying what God has provided in the woods. And when you drive around town, there's all these different hiding, on different buildings, and it's really kind of cool.
Yeah, we actually showed that in the episode where I was up there visiting with them. All the plywood cutouts of all different kinds of Sasquatch that they have all over town. And keeping in mind this town doesn't even have like a Sasquatch festival or anything. But mysteriously, they've got these Sasquatch plywood cutout things all over the place. Kind of makes you think there might be some Sasquatch around there, huh, Mike?
Maybe. And I was making the comment. I don't remember who I was saying it to. I know I said something to my wife about it, but I was like, maybe I should, try and maybe start a little like annual, Sasquatch, get together in town and see how many people actually come in. And then, if there's any shares that could be, or stories that could be shared, and anybody that'd be interested in maybe going out and doing some recon. But I don't know.
You'd be the man to do it. I mean, you're so famous. You actually did Sasquatch investigation recon for Bobo. So,
Right?
yeah. You go out and do the original recon, so it's nice and safe when Bobo shows up, and he doesn't have to worry. He can just eat chocolate-covered pizza and go, "So what'd you find, Mike?"
Yeah, no, that whole thing, there was a little bit of activity when I was there, because I showed up days, maybe about a week after the incident, the initial report, and then Bobo showed up another like 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later, and it was pretty quiet. But the elk in the area had moved on to other pastures, so I wasn't surprised that it was pretty quiet by the time he showed up.
So basically, what you told Bobo is you did the Google Earth work and took a look at it and went, well, here's where the elk migrate through here, and I walked down here, and here's the elk trails where they migrate through here, and here's a couple Bigfoot tracks that I found while I was down here looking at where the elk migrate through here. And we sat out at night on the porch with my night vision and watched the Sasquatch walking around in the woods as they're following the elk that migrate through here.
Yeah, that night was interesting because I'd seen one large, upright figure move between an outbuilding and a bus, and it was probably at least 8 feet tall. But when we tried to approach it, there was a big stomping noise to our right up the hill going towards the house. But we all stopped in our tracks, and did you hear that? What the hell was that? I don't know. Well, then we started walking back towards the bus where we'd seen, or at least where I had seen something move, and then there was another big stomp right up the hill where the first sound came from.
Right.
I think it was just trying to give whatever was there time to leave. And then later on we'd seen something that looked Sasquatch-ish across the Canadian border where we couldn't get to across the fence, and it looked like it was standing there in the tree line. And then we went towards the house, and then came back a little bit later, and it wasn't there. So
Yeah.
that one was probably more like 10 feet tall.
Canadian Sasquatches, they're bigger, eh? They drink maple syrup all the time. Did he? He was probably taunting you too. He's like, "Ha ha! I'm on the other side of the border, wankers. You can't do anything to me."
If you come over here, I'm gonna call the.
Call the RCMP and have you arrested, hosers. Don't even try and come over that fence.
Yeah, we're locked down because of COVID, eh?
Yeah. Everybody's locked out from COVID, so Sasquatch can roam all over, eh?
Yep.
He's probably digging it. Yeah, keep him locked down forever, so I got free run of Canada.
Pretty much, yep.
Anyway, I thought that was hilarious, and I'd bring it up that, yeah, Mike actually got to do a recon of a Sasquatch report before the BFRO and the person that they sent was Bobo even got there. So, woohoo.
Rock on.
That's right. We got Montana covered, BFRO. You don't need to worry about it. We're all over Montana.
Heck yeah.
All right, Mike. Well, thanks for being on. I think we got everything, didn't we?
Yeah, that was. There wasn't a whole lot of highlights, and so it was pretty easy to cover the main things.
Yeah, a lot of trudgery and drudgery. All the highlights came after the fact when I started looking at the video and went, "Oh my God, they're all over the place." And people started sending me timestamps. Duke, look, there's one here. Duke, look, there's one here. Or screen captures. Hey, check this out. Wow, great picture. Where'd that come from? Your video. Where did it come from? So let's hope that it's that active again here this coming month, and we have a bunch of them following around and getting sloppy, so we can catch them on video by accident.
Yeah, it'd be nice to do one on high definition. Just walking away or doing a tree peek or something.
Yeah, or even just like flipping us off and walking away. I don't care. That would be fine.
Exactly. And I'm sure if we were able to get that, people would say, "Oh, it's all fake." And I get it. That's that's what people do these days on the internet. They like to fake things and they got all that. But if anybody was to come into my life, they would know I don't have time to manipulate all this video crap. I literally just film it and it stays on my phone. I don't. I quite often I don't even like rewatch it. I send it to you and I'm like, here you go.
And then I look at it and go, hey, Mike, look at your phone over here.
Exactly. I manipulate anything that I record. You know, I like an image. I've done, like I've created memes and stuff, so I've had to alter images. I don't have the ability to go on a video that I record to actually change something up. So if I can catch something, it'll be straight up legit. There's gonna be no.
Well, you're filming with a cell phone too. That's even more. How are you gonna go tamper with that? And Mike can vouch for me on that because half the time I hardly even have the gas money to get out there, much less money to do a hoax with, or get a fake costume, or hire somebody to make fake tracks or some BS like that. Are you serious? Who the hell would do that? Mike Cook was joking about that when he found that first Super X up there, and Richard Williams found the Williams X. And I was sending him pictures, and he's looking at him. He's like, well, clearly you just hired a logging copter and a couple dozen Sherpas and had them in there setting up all this stuff a couple weeks before you guys came in to film it. I estimate the cost at about $250,000. Yeah. Which is easier to believe? Logging helicopter, a dozen Sherpas, and $250,000, or we just showed up and filmed this stuff because it's sitting there.
Exactly right.
Yep.
And I doubt somebody went through all that to try and hoax us, because there's how many million square acres in Montana, and we just happen to go to this one spot.
Yeah.
Middle
Yeah,
of
and
nowhere.
keep in mind, there aren't trails. There aren't even, and Aaron commented on this, there aren't even like deer trails going to some of this stuff that we found. We're finding it just because we're going, let's walk this direction. I don't care if there's a trail or not. We're walking this direction,
Yep.
And then we start randomly finding things. We go into areas where it looks like they're around.
Yep. So it kind of makes it hard to come across some person's random expensive hoax.
Yeah. Well, you figure if there were humans going out there enough with block and tackle and stuff to push over all these trees and tie all their tops together to make them look like a big teepee and stuff, how beaten down the ground would be with several humans there doing that. There'd be a path there going back and forth.
Oh, yeah. It'd be beaten down pretty bad.
Yeah. And they would be out there more than once to do this. So there'd be some kind of a trail that they had made just because humans will go the same route every time. So that's where trails come from. Other animals tend to do the same thing. Sasquatch don't usually do that. And that's one of their oddball traits. Don't follow the same trail over and over again. You don't leave a beaten path or anything to follow. Although I've seen them follow other animals' game trails, which their foot is as wide as the whole game trail. So generally pretty obvious when they're doing that.
Yep. And there's been times where I'll find a game trail and try and look, 10, 15 feet off the game trail. And sometimes I'll find tracks because, they're following the game trail, but not on the game trail.
Right, because they don't want to give away the fact that they're there. And then every animal comes down the game trail is going to see their track and smell and go, oh, geez, I'm out of here. They're a stealthy predator. They want to stay nearby where they can keep an eye on. Good choke point where they're going to come through and they can grab one or something.
Yep.
All right, brother. Well, thanks for spending some time with us. We're going to have to record you again soon here and do a wrap up on the expedition we did in July with Aaron. And hopefully get that out here before we have to go and film a brand new one, because we need to make space on our computers and cameras.
Mine's telling me I need to get rid of some stuff because it's getting a little full.
Yeah, you might want to save those few videos of that giant teepee under construction so we can keep comparing video when we show up over there. We can see any changes that have been made month to month.
Oh, and I got to go eat cheesecake pretty soon with my oldest granddaughter.
Uh-oh. Oh, we better let you go eat cheesecake, man. Thanks for being on the show, buddy. And thanks for everybody that's listening in. And don't forget that it's safety first, last, and always. Be kind to everyone. Pay it forward. Don't punt the puck, would you? Don't poke Dogman with a stick. Don't flip off the mountain giant. And whatever you do, do not hug the Wookiees. So anyway, Everybody be kind to each other. Always pay it forward. Safety first, last, and always. Don't punt the puck, would you? Don't poke dog man with a stick. Don't flip off the mountain giant. And God help you, whatever you do, do not hug the Wookiees. Good night.